Welcome back to Crux Stationalis. Today, on this first Sunday of Lent, the Roman Station Church is San Giovanni in Laterano, or St. John Lateran. Before we explore the Cathedral of Cathedrals, the Cathedral of Rome, and therefore the Cathedral of the world, I want to show you video from the first few days of the Roman Station Church pilgrim itinerary, and dive into the history of the Roman Station Church itinerary. The Lenten Roman Station Church itinerary emphasizes in the solemn celebrations of Lent the cult of the martyrs. Christ's saving work is carried out in his church through the total adherence of the redeemed and in a particular way of the intrepid witnesses who have given their lives for Christ. This list of the martyrs in this Roman Station Church pilgrim itinerary was first recorded by a devoted hand at the end of the 3rd century. And we also owe it to the immense work of Pope Damasus at the end of the 4th century, who wanted to preserve the memories of the Roman martyrs for the veneration of the faithful. In the earliest form of the Lenten itinerary, there were only about 25 churches which were assigned as stations. More precisely, the statio was not defined as the church building itself, but rather the station is of the relics of the very martyr housed within each church. For example, rather than station at the basilica of Santa Anastasia, the station is considered to be at Santa Anastasia herself. In the 6th century, Pope St. Gregory the Great fixed the classic order of these stations and confirmed the tradition that the more solemn festivals of the liturgical year should be marked with the standard practices. We read from the Liturgy of the Roman Church by Archdale King. The stational liturgy began normally at the hour of none, that is, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The Pope with his clergy and faithful assembled in the basilica, which had been appointed as the assembly place, the colletta. A prayer called the oratio ad collectam, or collect, was then said, and a procession was made to the church in which the stational mass was to be celebrated. Preceded by the cross, the crux stationalis, the whole assembly sang songs, antiphons, and the litany of the saints, whence the name litany was given to the procession. The sacred vessels and all other things required for Mass were carried in the procession by the assistants. The Liber Pontificalis, the Book of Papal Celebrations, says that in the year 795, Pope Leo III ordered 20 silver vessels to be made, which were carried by the acolytes in the procession to the stational church. One point is worth noting, however. In earlier times, it was during the course of the stational Mass, just after the communion of the Pope, that the announcement would then be made as to the location of the next stational Mass. Eventually, this was replaced by a structured, predetermined format. A table of stations came to be inscribed in the liturgical books, the first of which was a Roman lectionary entitled the Comes Romanus Würzburgensis, or the Comes Würzburg, dating to the 6th or 7th century. The practice of keeping stations continued beyond Lent into Eastertide. The stations for the Easter season proceeded in order of sanctity, from St. John Lateran, which is dedicated to Christ the Savior for the Easter Vigil, to St. Mary Major on Easter Day, to the shrines of principal patrons of the city over the next 3 days, St. Peter, St. Paul, and St. Lawrence. The total number of stations within the traditional liturgical year is comprised of 89 days, occurring at 43 Roman churches. As detailed, we see the fixed station itinerary coming from the 6th or 7th century and solidified by the popes, Pope St. Gregory the Great and Gregory II. But the practice fell into periods of decline and disuse. With the Gregorian reforms of the 11th century of Pope St. Gregory VII, greater emphasis began to be placed on the Pope as administrator, and the papal liturgies began to be celebrated in private rather than among the people of the city. He would come simply on some of the days of the station masses. The keeping of stations then ceased entirely during the Avignon papacy. from the years 1309 to 1376, during which 7 successive popes resided in Avignon. Attributed in part to the incessant pleas, demands, and threats of St. Catherine of Siena, Gregory XI in 1376 began his return from France to Rome. It wouldn't be until the 20th century that this practice would be taken up in full again. In the light of the Avignon papacy and the loss of these traditions, we can reference a 9th century Roman poet who said, "We mustn't forget that which is grand and august is yet Roman. That is, it belongs to Rome, whence Christ is Roman and where sits the successor of the first Peter." The impetus in modern times for the devotional itinerary of the Roman station churches came from Popes Pius XI and Pius XII, who encouraged a return to this ancient tradition by attaching indulgences for visiting the station churches of Lent and Easter. Further concrete gestures of successive popes also began a revival. Pope St. John XXIII was the first pope in modern times to celebrate Ash Wednesday at the Roman station church of Santa Sabina. It is quite remarkable that these stational references remained within the Roman Missal up to our modern times, at least included in the 1962 Missal promulgated by Pope St. John XXIII, the same year in which he made his visit for the Roman Station Church Mass at Santa Sabina on Ash Wednesday. We can be grateful that the Roman Missal provides a perennial testimony of the Papal Liturgy of Rome, as it was manifested for many centuries and revived in the Diocese of Rome by the Academia Cultorum Martyrum Romanum, formerly the Collegium Cultorum Martyrum, which was established by papal mandate more than a century ago. They have the jealous custody of keeping such grand memory, permeated by the generous and fruitful blood spilled over the centuries for the faith, on account of which we are still able today to repeat and proclaim that phrase coined by Tertullian, "The blood of the martyrs is the seed of Christians." And today we are still comforted by the spiritual benefices offered by the Church, recalling that a partial indulgence is granted to those who make a visit to the station church on its assigned day, and a plenary indulgence is granted for the participation at the sacred functions. In this, our Roman station church pilgrimage, we follow the King of Martyrs, accompanied by his mother, the Queen of Martyrs, and by the innumerable ranks of the witnesses of Christ, made resplendent in the blood of the Lamb, as well as purpling their garments by their own blood. I thank you for joining us on this first Sunday of Lent with this history of the Roman Station Church itinerary. I'll see you tomorrow at the Roman Station Church. God bless you.